today, as you heard from Joshua in the beginning, on the 7th day of Hanukkah. It's the candle before the last. Tomorrow will be the last candle of Hanukkah that we are lighting. On the way here, I brought a traditional dish that you have on Hanukkah. To warn you all, it's a very dangerous dish, and these are called the sufganiyot, and I'm not sure how you call them in English. I think jelly donuts, that's how you would call them. And of course, they are super greasy, super sweet, and every doctor is warning you not to touch them and not even to think about it. But they are sold in the millions here in Israel during Hanukkah. That's the traditional dish because it, in a way, describes the sweetness of the holiday miracle of Hanukkah. Now, we have been speaking several times about the challenges that Hanukkah brought for the people of Israel. And in particular, that the Feast of Hanukkah is a celebration that gives you probably the most powerful and exact imagery and prediction or prophetic prefiguration of the Antichrist. Antiochus Epiphanes, he was the man who pronounced himself God. He defiled the temple. He took away the regular sacrifice, and he wanted him to be worshipped. He forgot. He forbade to teach the Torah, to read the Torah. There are many more things about him to speak about him. We saw from 2 Thessalonians that this is almost a perfect commentary on the time of Hanukkah, where the falling away was coming first before this disastrous Antichrist type Antiochus Epiphanes was coming. And I want to point out maybe one or two more characteristics of this very unique time in Israel's history, where I believe Paul drew a lot of inspiration for his own eschatology, or the teaching about the end times. In a way, if you read his letters here, this understanding that the last days will be like it was at that time when the Maccabees were fighting off the Greek Empire, and when this man of lawlessness, we spoke about this last time, this man of lawlessness will be revealed. And there's something that really caught my attention in the ESV Bible in Daniel chapter 11, verse 21 and 24. There is a particular phrase that is being used to describe his coming. It says in Daniel chapter 11, verse 21, and his place shall arise, in his place shall arise a contemptible person. Now that's the person we are talking about, Antiochus Epiphanes, a contemptible person to whom royal majesty has not been given. And he shall come in, now listen, he shall come in without warning and obtain the kingdom. That means his coming is absolutely unexpected. Suddenly, he seems to arrive on the scene, and when nobody was expecting him. And again, the very same Hebrew expression or phrase is used in the same chapter 11, verse 24. And without warning, he shall come into the richest part of the province. And many read this as a reference to the land of Israel, that suddenly this Antichrist person will stand at the footstool or at the doorsteps of Israel. Now, I was looking today a little bit in my Hebrew dictionary or my Hebrew Bible, what this word actually is, without warning or suddenness. There are all kinds of words which came to my mind, but it wasn't actually any one of them which I expected. But the Hebrew says that huba beshalva. And there is a tea factory which is called Shalva Teas, I'm not sure if some of you know it. It's a very amazing factory. We actually are selling some teas of them in our ICJ shop. And they are using the name Shalva teas, not that it's without warning or pay attention to our tea, but what it means, actually, it means prosperity. So I looked in the dictionary that how this word is used in the Bible, and I was quite surprised that the ESV only describes it in the book of Daniel as without warning. In all the other passages, actually, it is being used in another context. It's used, for example, to describe security, to describe prosperity, quietness. That's why they call the tea, because they believe that if you drink their tea, you enter into a state of inner rest and tranquility. Now, this is all good kosher tea, so don't worry about anything, but it's herbal teas that they are selling. But in one or two passages, it's also translated as complacency. And I believe what that actually means, and this is the indication that we saw already 2 weeks ago, that this was something that Israel was caught by surprise when this man suddenly entered the scene. That he was a person they would not have expected, because everything looked so perfectly well, quiet, prosperous, and they entered into a state of complacency. Now, let me tell you, there's something about this current war in Israel. We always say that what Israel experiences in its natural history, it is always something that is giving also as a prophetic testimony to the church. And I believe if there is one lesson to take from October 7, from those horrendous attacks, which came exactly like we are reading here in this passage, that out of a sudden, when Israel was in a place of quietness, of complacency, not expecting such an attack, suddenly out of nothing, the surprise attack was taking place. I just wondered if this is not a major warning of God to the church around the world, where he says, wake up, because there might be very bad times coming to the church and you need to be alerted. And it's quite amazing, if you read the passages of the New Testament. I want to read you just one of them. I could give you quite a number of other references in the Olivet Discourse from Jesus, which he gave on the Mount of Olives, Matthew 24. But let me read to you First Thessalonians chapter 5. And let's start reading from verse 1. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 from verse 1. Now concerning the time and the seasons, brothers, you have no need to have anything written to you, for you yourselves are fully aware that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. In other words, the coming of the Lord will be a sudden experience where nobody actually has this marked in his calendar. There is no family in the whole world that actually puts it in this calendar. Tomorrow night at 4 o'clock, burglars will come to my house and they will come in. We just don't know when they are coming. And Paul here says to the church, he says, I don't need to tell you about the coming of the Lord, because you know it already. I taught you before that when Jesus comes, he will come completely unannounced, out of the blue. You will not expect him when he is coming. And he says he will be like a thief that is coming for a surprise. And when people are saying there is peace and security, that's exactly the word that is this word shalva is being used in the book of Daniel. When this is the situation in the land, that's actually when you least expect him. That's when you need to expect him, that he is coming. When they say there is peace and security, sudden destruction will come. And dear friends, I think there is no better description of the events of October 7 than this very verse here, is that when nobody expected it, when even the people in the Gaza community, they kept telling us, we heard it ourselves, from some of those leaders there. They said they will never attack us because they like our prosperity. We give them jobs. We are investing into them. We are building them the irrigation centers, etc. There will be a new peace in this region, and they were not expecting anything like what was taking place on October 7. And the Bible tells us that's exactly how it will happen when Jesus will be coming. So I believe for the church around the world, those October 7 events, they are a warning call for the church to get ready. And if you are feeling at peace and at security in your church, in your community, in your country where you are living, let me tell you, you better get ready for a move of God and for the coming of God, or for some sudden events in your country. And it says those events will come like the pain, the labor pains come upon a pregnant woman. And it's quite interesting the way how it's described. And it says they will not escape. That means I remember that very well when I went with my wife. She went through it. I just observed it and did my best to stand with her when those labor pains for our 4 children came upon her. There is no medication to stop that. Once they start, you know, there is no way back anymore because the child is coming. And that's what's happening today in the world. You know, as you see those birth pangs coming over the world, you need to understand there will be no intercessor in the world who actually can stop the events of those coming years, because Jesus is on the way and nothing and nobody is able to stop him. But you are not in darkness, he continues here in verse 4. Brothers, that this day might cause you as a surprise, like a thief. Now, I want to make a comment on that. He said, well, Jürgen, this contradicts what you said. What Paul is telling us, that actually you might actually know the times and season when he's coming. Now, listen to that, how he describes that. For you are all children of light, children of the day. We are not of night or of the darkness. So then let us not sleep as the others, but let us keep awake and be sober. Now, what Paul is telling us here is not that the believers know when Jesus is coming and the unbelievers not, but he says the big difference in those last days between the believers and the unbelievers is that the unbelievers, the backsliders, those who are falling away from faith, they are sleeping. And when the day comes, it will suddenly catch them by surprise. But he says, but you will not be like that. You will be awake. You still don't know when the thief is coming. Could be today, could be tomorrow, could be in a week from now. But your lifestyle is this lifestyle of awakeness, a lifestyle of alertness, a lifestyle of soberness, a lifestyle in the Word of God, in prayer, in fellowship with Jesus. So when that day comes, it will not catch you by surprise, but you will be ready when Jesus comes. And this is so important for us, is that Joshua said this in one of our prayer meetings. I believe it was in the beginning of those of the Chanukah holidays. He says the time has come where we not anymore say, oh, when he's coming, when the signs are there, maybe then we will be awaking. Brothers and sisters, the time to be awake is now. There is no more delay. And so he says, therefore, let us not sleep and let us not be like those who get drunk. Those who get drunk, he says, are doing so by night. But since we belong to the day, let us be sober, having put on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet, the hope of salvation. And with this, actually, I want to close. But what Paul here is telling us, and I'm not sure if somebody noticed here, there is a big parallel passage in the writings of Paul to that. He speaks about the breastplate of faith and love and the helmet of hope, the hope of salvation. Those 3 things, faith, hope, and love. Paul says these are the 3 things that will remain, and the greatest among them is love. And he says, in those last days, that's your equipment, that's your armory. You have the breastplate of faith, where you are able, even though you are living in a dark time, you still will be able to carry out great exploits. You have the helmet of hope, and I can't tell you how important that helmet of hope is. In particular, as we enter into the last days and as the day of the Lord is approaching, there are far too many believers who are experts in eschatology, but they have given up all hope that still something good is coming. And Paul says, this hope actually, it is your helmet. Now I want to bring you here a showcase. And this is a helmet, a grade A helmet that was given to us when we were entering in the Gaza envelope. They said you cannot enter into this area without a helmet and without your breastplate, without a bulletproof vest. Here under my table, I have my bulletproof vest. Let me tell you, there are different types of helmets. Now, this helmet here that you see here, I was passing just a few days ago when we were in Kfar Aza. One of the elite soldiers saw me, said, "Oh, where did you get that helmet from?" He says, "I would like to have one like that because they are the best one you can get." And he says, so I asked him, what is so good about that? He says, this one that you have, he says, not only keeps bullets away, but even if rocket shrapnels are flying around, they cannot penetrate this helmet. Now, a helmet, especially in this time in which we are living, super important. There is no armor, no soldier right now in Gaza without his helmet on, because without a helmet, you can be killed and your brain can receive a fatal wound that will cost your life. And Paul says in those last days, we need to have a helmet on, and this helmet is the helmet of hope. In other words, if you have given up hope in those last days, you actually are finding yourself in a very precarious, a very dangerous position. And I want to encourage you all, us, that we are people in those last days like the Maccabees. They were people who had the full armor and they were ready to strike back when the Greek army was attacking. They had the helmet of hope on them. They didn't give up and they said, oh, we have no chance on this huge army of the Greeks. They are much stronger than us. But they understood, like David did when he met this Goliath giant. He says, with our God, nothing is impossible. And I want to encourage you today, wherever you are, however dark this situation might be in this last days, you might have already given up and get your end time supply in your kitchen and just wait for the rapture. Brothers and sisters, there is a lot of work still to be done. We need to be equipped in those last days, and we are called, like we said already a few days ago, to carry out great exploits in the days in which we are living. The coming of the Lord will be a sudden one, a surprising one. Nobody will expect it. But the question is, how will the surprise be to us? Will he find us awake and laboring and working, or will be people who are just resignated and already are waiting for maybe a better future in the heavens? And since we don't know when he is coming, we shouldn't waste our time doing nothing, but that's what Jesus said. Blessed are those who I find working when I come. And that's my prayer for us here today, that we will be a working church. You know, don't understand me wrong. This is no word of condemnation against anyone. That we have again 1,200 people here on this call today. It shows that you are one of those who are awake, that you are one of those who are ready to carry out great exploits. And that gives me great hope also for this time.